Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Corning Museum of Glass, and welcome everyone online with us for the live stream, joining us as well for our live stream guest artist demonstration. We have Shelley Muzylowski. She is our teacher over at the Corning Museum of Glass studio. She's also here for this demonstration. So you all are in for, let's give her a big round of applause. Thank you. She's here for, let's see, about an hour and a half. We'll see how we go here, but she's got a good time allotment. We've got her team as well. We have Jeremiah here. He's going to be helping out, and we have Tony over there as well. These two are from the class as well. I believe that Jeremiah is the TA. Cool. All right. So these two are going to help out. Right now, and then we have Catherine Ayers over here. She is our on the team here at the Corning Museum of Glass, and I myself am Katie, so I'll be narrating with you all, chatting with you all about this process, and online with you all as well. So if you have questions here in the studio audience here or in the internet, please let us know. We'd love to answer them, any questions you may have. But here we go. So the first thing we do, so Shelley is a very fabulous artist. She has prepared a grawl, and this grawl is the body of a unicorn. So we're going to make a unicorn with you all today. And so we have that unicorn body sitting inside of a pickup kiln that's coming up to about 1100 degrees. It slowly came up to about 900, and then we just recently have sent that all the way up to a good pickup temperature. Now, the grawl that we have in there, I believe, is maybe, I didn't hold it, but Jeremiah did. I think it's probably around at least 5 pounds. And so that's a lot of glass. That's something that we want to come up slowly in an oven. So glass needs to slowly come up or go down in temperature. So it has a coefficient of expansion. Therefore, it heats up, it expands, and when it cools, it contracts. And so we need that to go to we need that to happen at a rate at which the glass won't break. And usually that's pretty slow. So a piece like that needed at least 6 hours to come up. We have what we call a collar on the end of that blowpipe. That collar has been cooled and shaped. It is open. So we have a blowpipe there that we can blow into, and the opening has been opened so that when we attach that collar onto the body of our unicorn, we'll be able to still inflate the body of that. So we have cooled the glass down. The glass will still connect to the body of that piece. If it's too hot, that piece, with all that weight, it's going to be moving around a little bit too much. So we want to have a good temperature, a sticky temperature, but not a too hot temperature. So we're waiting. We're waiting for this kiln to come up to the correct temperature for us to take that out. We don't want it to be too cold, or else we could risk breaking that glass. And so glass starts out at 2,100 degrees Fahrenheit from our oven in the middle of the studio. We can then use that glass at that temperature. It moves like honey. It's quite runny. It gives off its own light. That's why we keep it at that temperature, so that it is quite movable, malleable. And so that's what we're seeing on the end of that iron. That is our clear glass from the middle of our studio and our furnace.
If Chris said it doesn't, it doesn't.
We popped a bubble in that. We've smoothed the sides down. We've pulled a lot of that onto the pipe. That's going to be our anchor for our piece. And the grawl, what a grawl is basically, essentially, it is a blank of glass that has had designs either kind of engraved into it or sandblasted into it, and then either color rubbed in later on, or could be done during this process. I did see some beautiful color pattern already on it, so we'll see that when we bring that out of the oven. Yes, Shelley says the perfect temperature, and I agree. We must get to that perfect temperature before we take that out. So we start with clear glass inside of our furnace. We can then add different colors onto the surface of the glass. We usually start with clear glass. It's an industry standard usually for artistic studio glass like this. And then you can add different colors onto the surface, whether that's in frit form, which is little granules of crushed up glass, a little bit bigger than table salt or rock salt, a little smaller than rock salt. And then you can also add powders, so totally ground up powdered colored glass, which is what Shelley does use a lot of. And you can add in color bar, which is a big kind of rod of glass, and that can then be added onto the tip of the pipe or onto a bubble and smoothed over to cover the entire bubble. And so I bet you this one has a lot of different color techniques on it. Right now, Shelley is using a hot torch to superheat just the connection point of this collar, getting a little bit of heat to adhere to that. The connection that we want is we want a really good connection. There are other connections you'll see later on that are supposed to maybe break off.
Are you going to open it?
See what kind of a break-off connection she uses later. But I don't believe we want this one to really come off. This is our reheating chamber. This is 2,100 degrees Fahrenheit as well. With our awesome camera view inside of this oven, we'll never have to take our eyes off of the unicorn that we're making today. Did I mention that? We're making a unicorn. I'm very excited. So they prepared a lot of these pieces next door at the studio. Shelley did this with her class, so they all took part in this. They're here with us today. Some of the parts and the pieces are in our garage, staying hot, so that we're ready to take those out whenever the time comes. Some of the pieces, we do have the horn in one of the kilns next to where the body of the unicorn is coming out. You want to up and down, yeah. Yep. This is our pipe cooler. It is a pump action, so we don't have to hook it up to any power source. The pipe cooler does just what the name says. It cools off the pipe so that we have a little bit of a closer kind of handle on that. The pipes that we use, they do get hot about a foot away from where that glass is located. And so we can't put our hands usually that close to the glass. Unless we use that pipe cooler, that gives us a little bit more of an advantage to lift that glass out of that kiln. Right now we're letting a lot of that heat come out of that reheating chamber so that once again we don't shock this glass. Our glass can't withstand the temperature differences of drastic temperature differences is what I should say. So we let some of that heat come out of that. Anywhere from honestly above 1,000 to 2,100 degrees is pretty good, but with something nice and thick like this, we really want to take our time. And here we go. So Jeremiah is going to use this collar to stick up. There's our unicorn body in that kiln. Great camera view. And then out we go and away into our oven to get this nice and warm and start our heating process. And that's a big success. Let's give the team a big round of applause for that. Thank you. Now we do have already a lot of form happening in this. We have lots of color pattern happening in this. I can see the starts of legs happening in this too, so a lot of work has already begun. Very beautiful. So we're back in this oven, really letting this heat soak into the walls of this piece, getting it up to a workable temperature, also a temperature where it can be out of that oven for X amount of time to where we can start to work on it. Look at that beautiful color patterning. That's wonderful. And so this color patterning, well, I should say that this bubble itself, this unicorn body is a bubble. So if any of you here in-house had seen a glass blowing demonstration before today, you saw us make kind of functional blown pieces. This is what you can do with a bubble as well. You can make a form, you can make anything out of that. Organic forms. See a little bit of the glow coming into the glass now, so that will tell you the temperature. Just look at the glow of that glass. We're using right now a hot torch to just add more heat to the part of the body that we really want to work on. We don't want to heat the entire thing up the whole time, just really on the part we want to work on. All right, so that color pattern was added on by taking powder and laying that out on a kiln shelf. So a shelf that can be heated up to this temperature, and a shelf also that glass won't really melt onto with the proper preparations. And then Shelley drew a pattern into that. So that's where you're seeing the negative space of the lack of powder is the darker colors. So the powder roll-up was white. So with powder, with glass powder, just picture kind of like makeup powder or mica powder. It's kind of the same thing, except it melts into glass when you heat it up. You can put that out onto that kiln shelf. You can draw into it whatever pattern you would like, kind of sift pattern, or sift that that powder onto that kiln shelf. And then you heat that up into the oven, and that fuses together into a sheet that you then can roll up onto the side of a bubble. And so Shelley also said that some of her other colors are also, she said there's a sand and a cinnamon color. So we've got some of, she's got a really great color palette. I recommend to anyone to check out her work on her website. Her color pattern is awesome. It's very beautiful. Or color schemes. She usually uses kind of the earthy tones. This is a hotter torch. This torch can go up to 3,500 degrees, 4,000 degrees. And so we're going to use that to spot heat in very particular areas. And with a hot torch like this, inside of a studio like this, instead of just using this reheating chamber to heat the glass, we now have this small torch where we can get very fine detail in our glass, totally changing the way that glass is made today, or at least allowing us to really elaborate on the pieces and shapes that we want to make. Allowing us to add lots and lots of detail. Shelley right now is using what we call an inside sculpting tool. It is a tool with a handle where her hand is, and the end of that iron is a small ball. And that will help to push and pull areas of the glass from the inside. Another brand new kind of tool. So the torch came around, we've been using that in hot shops only in the past maybe 30, 40 years, probably a little bit more than that. And then those inside sculpting tools came about really only in the past maybe 30 years or so. Other tools used for glass making have been around for thousands of years. So those are pretty new. A lot of the shears and things came about eventually, but the jacks here, this tool right here, these have been around for a long, long time. We do believe that the Romans used these to blow glass. Not exactly this one in particular, but the design is quite ancient. However, the inside sculpting tools are brand new. So in the scheme of things, quite new. Using a pair of tweezers, Shelley is pulling that glass. I'm going to shape that up a bit more. If our glass gets too cold while we're working with it, it could crack and break at any moment. So you know that we spent so much time working on heating this glass up, getting it to the right temperature, getting it into that oven and soaking all of that heat back into the piece. If we were to just leave it out of the oven, it would crack and it would break. So we need to make sure that it goes back into that oven. Also, part of Catherine's job here, and of course all of our job, is to maintain that temperature, to keep an eye on it. But Catherine there has that torch which will help keep that punty or that collar that we have this piece connected to nice and warm. So it's really important that we work on that too. You can see that with a piece like this that has a lot of detail, and we'll have more detail as the demonstration goes on, but a piece like this, involves an entire team. So far, we have 5 people working on one piece. So the more detail you add, the larger the piece becomes, the more people you need to help. Shelley just called in another student that is here in the stands to come and help. There's nothing like teamwork. So Shelley is right now using the jacks, the blades of the jacks, to squeeze down that opening. She used it briefly to go in and shape some of the muscles in our unicorn. Now she's using it to close it down. Back into our reheating chamber we go. So each person kind of has their role. The roles can change depending on what's going on. Oops. Here we're cutting this off. So we're going to squeeze that down, a pair of diamond shears, and then cuts that free. The diamond shears are really great. That's a very glass blowing specific tool. I'll hold some up for you all. Look at that. Instead of cutting in a straight line like normal everyday shears do, like our kitchen shears, these cut in the round, if you will. So that will kind of totally cut all together. These cut more like in a line. So that's really nice when we're cutting off bits to go on a piece, or kind of closing that off. We want to cut all the way around instead of leaving a long mark in the glass. That way we can make a smaller mark in the glass. And back into the oven. Are there any questions here so far in our audience? Or online? Do we have any questions online? Yeah. All right. So we have areas where the legs start, I can see. And inside of our garage, let's go take a peek at it. I do see legs. And I see a head too. So the head is in there as well. So those will go on when the time has come, when the time is ready. Oh, good question. Good question. So is it hard to keep different colors balanced on a piece of glass? In particular, when those colors they move differently, they act differently. So this question goes back to kind of what happens when you add different types of color to glass. So when you add white to glass, white will reflect the heat away, and so the glass won't get as hot as if you had added a darker color like blue. And so if you do that, the glass will move faster, quicker, and white will kind of repel the heat. So the darker colors will absorb it, the white and the lighter colors, even orange and yellow, will repel that. And so on this piece, with great observation, we do have those dark colors and the white overhead of that, over top of that. And so I would say that, yeah, eventually maybe those colors could kind of work a little differently, but with a piece like this, which is thicker, and we're going to kind of make this a little bit slower than a bubble that's going to be thin and blown out, I don't think that they would work too differently on a piece like this. So good question. If we were to make this blown out quite a bit and really thin and a lot of kind of blown action and making this quickly, then yeah, those might move a bit differently. Sure. That's a great question. How many hours would this take if this was start to finish? And this is why we have all these parts kind of loaded up inside of the oven. We have actually picked up this kind of in mid-process. And that's because this probably would take, honestly, maybe 4 hours. And we would start small. We would start with the legs, and we would start with the head, and we would start then with the body, and then add all these things on. So the fact that we had done this kind of right in the middle, we pick up the body, goes to show you that, yeah, it would take a little bit of time. So we do have a limited time here. But Shelley is so smart to start all of this before so that we can maximize the amount of time that we have here on the stage. So look at this, a bit of glass going right on to the part that we cut off. We have another student with us too. Wow, I love it. We're gonna smooth that down. To me, this feels like a glue bit, but let's see. Let's see what we do. Oh, I know. I think I know. But let's see. So Shelley had added that on, smoothed it down, and I believe this is going to be kind of little notches where our punty's going to go. We're going to do a third one, and then I'll know. So in order to work on the other half of this piece, glassmakers, they have to add another iron to this. When we do that, we have to think about how this piece is going to, how that iron's going to come off of this work. And how it's going to look when we try to kind of grind, maybe sometimes grind some of that glass off. And of course, we don't want to break the actual piece, so sometimes the punty is totally removed up off of the piece, and this is, I think, one of those punties. And so we're adding these pads on the bottom of this piece so that we can grind those pads off. So that removes the punty connection even further. And then Jeremiah over here is working on what I believe to be is a 3-prong punty. A 3-prong punty is going to be a punty made up of 3 prongs. Let's back up and talk about a punty. So a punty is that other iron that's designed to break off cleanly and easily off of the pipe. A punty traditionally for blown objects is mostly small, cold, and rounded. This piece is going to be pronged with 3 different kind of areas of connection. They're exciting. And that is what Jeremiah is working on over here. So he's cutting through that glass with what we call a tag. It's a tool, kind of like a spatula. And he's going to create these 3 different sections. And those 3 different sections are going to attach to those patties that are on the back of our unicorn. So excited. So 3-prong punties are really cool because you work with the glass nice and hot, and you peel out these kind of 3 areas, and that'll be attached onto the piece. Right now, Shelley is working on, I heard her say we're going to put a hole in this piece. We also don't want to close off a lot of our, I say our collective, we as glass makers, don't want to close off any of the glass that we work with because it could threaten the integrity of the vessel. So we like to have an opening there. So what Shelley's going to do is she's going to take a tungsten rod, a very hard metal. She's going to heat just the rod itself and then push that down into the body of the piece. That creates a little hole. Maybe that's where, no, we're going to do the 3-prong. All right, so that has been added. The 3-prong is being worked on currently. So far we have 3, 4, 5, 6 people on our team. So Jeremiah spins this out a little bit. That makes those prongs a little taller. The balls that he's created on the end is what's going to connect to those patties. So that means we're going to start to break this piece off and flip it over onto the puntee side. The puntee will be added first, and then we'll break it free. So when the puntee, when this three-prong puntee is broken free, I actually don't think we're going to break it. We'll see. We'll see. There's a couple of methods, but those buttons, I think, are going to still stay there. That's what it's designed to do. The buttons are going to stay on the patties, and we'll be able to kind of clip the buttons free. And then cold working happens. So there's a lot of ways in glass that you can change the way that the glass looks when it's cold, and that's called cold working. So you can use diamond wheels and bits to grind that glass away and polish it. And it'll be like the three-prong puntee never happened. And that's a lot of what Shelley's class is about this week. So she's teaching her class next door at the studio, and her students are making those grawls that you can make in the hot shop. You usually layer some colors, and then you take that out. You can grind the sides of that glass. And you can engrave in it. So she's been doing that with her students. And she said today that she has seen some amazing work come out of that class. And so that's really exciting to hear. Yeah, I don't know. I changed that around a bit, pads and cookies. I like cookies better though. We'll go with cookies. Yeah, we do like to relate this to food. Cooking. There are a lot of things similar to a kitchen and a glass blowing studio. A lot of us yelling behind or just sneaking through here. Yeah. So we'll call them cookies. But a patty is also a cooking reference, I guess, to a burger. So lots of heat working over there on that connection point. We want that to break off easily and evenly soon. So the team over here on the main bench that Shelley has been working on the majority of this demonstration and will continue to be over there, that team is maintaining that temperature. So you can see there's a lot going on over there, even though they're just kind of in a holding pattern. So lots of heating going back and forth to the workbench, out, in and out. And that timing that our glassmakers know is all built in from experience. So here we go. Here's our three-prong puntee. This is so cool. We're going to add this on. We're going to stick the prongs onto the cookies. This is probably a test run. Okay. And then she's saying exactly how she wants it to be shaped, which is good. We want it to match right up to those cookies. Some more heating. Two teams, two different parts. Okay, another test run. You saw that Shelley brought that way back to where she can reach it better, that pipe. More aligning it up. If it's not perfect, they've got to try again. We want it to be as perfect as possible. So a little bit more heat on that, the balls there, so that they'll connect to our cookies. Maybe I'll call those gumdrops. And then we'll Add it on. We have 2 reheating chambers running on this studio, both being in use. Looks like Shelley's adding a neckline into this glass, and that line is going to help us break this piece off of that pipe a little bit easier. It'll give us a weak spot in the glass, kind of like scoring a chocolate bar to get it to break along its lines. We're going to let it break easily there. So she used that hot torch to reheat that area. If we didn't have that torch, we would have to use the reheating chamber to reheat it, then the whole thing would be moving. So it's so much easier sometimes to use that torch in spot heat areas of the glass. Back into our oven. So I believe this might be it. You can see it's moving slightly on that pipe. See when we stop turning. All right. So here we go. Every ball on its connector point. Safe and sound. Looks great. You can hear Shelley kind of saying what she wants her team to do here. They're going to work as a cohesive kind of unit, making sure that this is being rotated. They're going to now get this to break off using thermal shock. So purposefully cooling that glass so much that it can't handle it, and it just breaks right on that constriction line. So a couple drops of water. And a light tap on the pipe there. And then a light tap on that pipe. Boom. There it goes. Let's get a big round of applause for our team, everybody. Wow. Easy peasy. So now we're on our punty side. That went well. The punty still has a little bit of heat in it, especially being, kind of containing that much glass. So we're going to watch that. Work a lot of heat back into the top half of the piece. And then this punty is going to be the last thing that this is going to be on. So the punty is going to be holding this piece for the duration of the remainder of this demonstration. I believe so. So we'll work heat back into the top of that. The camera view here is showing you that a lot of it's staying out of that oven. So we don't really want to heat the entire thing up. Of course, that will allow this to stay a little bit cooler. If it gets too cold, we'll put it all the way into that oven to reheat it to make sure everything stays nice and warm. So now is a good time to talk a little bit about Shelley Muzylowski. So Shelley is originally from northern Manitoba, from Canada. And she was a painter before she was a glass artist. She has worked for and with the Billy Morris team, who was a phenomenal and a really amazing glass artist that was in the kind of the Pacific Northwest Seattle area. A lot of glass artists who had worked with him are now amazing glass artists themselves, including Shelley, and have made a name for themselves as glass makers and in the glass world. Shelley's putting another student up here. This is great. I love it. So she learned sculpture through working with Billy Morris and his team. And these days, she lives just north of Pilchuck. She lives in the Skagit Valley. She's been there for about 20 years. She owns and operates a hot shop, or a private hot shop with her husband, Rick. And so it's a really good place to do it up there. Pilchuck is a glass school that you can go to take classes in glass making. That's what our students have done here at the Corning Museum of Glass as well. Pilchuck is another great place to go to learn glass making from all kinds of glass artists from around the world. Same thing here at the museum. There are a few other glass making areas of the U.S., glass making schools that you can go to. Now we have a 7-person team. So Shelley has exhibited artwork all over. She has demonstrated in many different places in the world, and she has taught lots of classes. Look at that inside sculpting tool there, working its way around probably the shoulders. Pushing from the inside out. So once again, just that one area is heated. And that 3-prong punny working its magic, just keeping it steady there. When the glass starts to cool and it becomes rigid, it doesn't move anymore. So it's a really strong connection. I know it looks a little precarious, but it's strong, I promise. And she uses that torch right where she knows she's going to press that ball from the inside sculpting tool into the shoulders of that piece. Lots of torches going when it's outside of that oven. Outside of the oven, not inside. So you know that there are different types of glass color. The color rod, or you could use bar. That's the same. You could use powder, frit. But to make glass color, you add metal oxides into the material. So usually glass makers don't make their own color. If you do, that's amazing. There's a lot of chemistry that goes into glass color making. And I know a lot of glass makers are themselves interested in glass color making. People that make glass color do a lot of that chemistry. So we buy our glass color from manufacturers that have those formulas down and are able to manufacture them in a reliable sort of space and amount. They add metal oxides into the material. So if you wanted to get maybe a green color, you would add iron oxide into the glass, and that would turn the glass green. So iron oxide is just rust. Cobalt oxide will give you cobalt blue. I know we all love cobalt blue. I love cobalt blue. It's my mom's favorite color. And that's an easy one. I saw an ingredients list for a few colors in a book I recently have been reading. And the list for a cobalt blue was just cobalt. And then I saw a list for a red. And the red has usually gold chloride in it, but this one also had cadmium and selenium and 5 or 6 other ones. And yeah, so a lot of different metal oxides can go into glass color. It can be very intense sometimes. And so Shelley here is heating up the entirety of the neck. And that tells me that we're probably going to start to work on shaping that area. And in a glass piece, we usually work from kind of the pipe side down the vessel. That's because the hottest part of the vessel or the piece, in this case the unicorn, is going to be the part that's farthest off of the pipe, which is the first thing inside of that reheating chamber and the first thing out, or the last thing outside of that reheating chamber. Therefore, it holds a little bit of heat. I know that kind of sounds like that doesn't amount to a lot, but it really does, and that's the rule for every single piece of glass that's made in this fashion. And so why make something perfect that's going to be the end of the piece when you know that you're going to work on the rest of the piece and that part's going to just stay hot and lose its form and lose its shape. So we work down the piece as we go. So the next step, it looks like we're pulling that neck. We might even be closing that down. Brings me back to that hole that we made in the belly of our unicorn. It's always good to hide the hole. A lot of people use it as belly buttons, and that's what we've done. So we're using tweezers to pull that out and close that down. So as Shelley's in there with that tool, Tony here is shading or shielding Shelley's hands. Shelley's wearing gloves. Gloves are not necessary for a glassmaker all the time, but we do wear them, and usually it's when we're really close to the glass, just like when Shelley is there using them now. So the glass does give off radiant heat. It's not often that we're there with our hands for a long period of time, but when Shelley's in that, the body of this piece there, kind of pulling some of that out, her hand is about an inch away and it's there for longer than 10, 15 seconds. So having a glove on is pretty wise. In case she maybe slips a little bit, Tony has those boards right in front of her hand, so she'll be able to catch her. And that also provides a little extra protection from that radiant heat. So it isn't necessary there. We do also, we can sometimes wear Nomex or Kevlar as well on our sleeves, on our forearms, if we so desired, but that is always up to the gaffer, which is Shelley now. She is our gaffer. She's in charge of the piece. And so the type of glass that we're using in the studio here, and once again more of an industry standard as well throughout the world, is soda lime glass. And soda lime glass is made up of 3 main ingredients. You want to start with soda, silica sand. And so silica sand is the majority of that ingredient list. That's 70% of the mixture. Silica sand is a sand that can be found naturally all over the world. It can be mined out of the Earth's crust. It's not normally a beach sand. If you took beach sand and you heated that up inside of an oven to 2,500 degrees, it would turn into glass. It would, but it would be a really green, a really kind of bubbly, really difficult to work with glass. So instead, over time, humans found that if you use silica sand, it makes for a cleaner glass. So these days we refine it quite a bit and we clean it out, clear it out. To that mixture, we add about 20% of our flux, which is soda ash. Soda ash is kind of like potash. Before that, it was burned seaweed or kelp, and that lowers the melting point. Looks like we're heating up the head. I think, yeah. Let me check on that. Yeah, that looks like the head to our unicorn. So we've got that out of our garage now. So, excuse me, silica sand, soda ash, the flux, that lowers the melting point. If you have less of your flux in your glass, it obviously will melt at a higher melting point. So a glass like borosilicate glass has about 5% of its flux, so it melts at 4,000 degrees, 3,500, 4,000. And the last thing to our ingredient list, so 70% silica sand, 20% soda ash, we have 10% limestone, and limestone is a stabilizer. Limestone prevents our glass from becoming water soluble. So with lots of moisture and with a glass without limestone in it, the glass will decay and start to fall apart over time. With this glass, with lots of limestone in it, it doesn't decay. It does not do it. That makes soda lime glass. Soda lime glass is the same glass that we use as consumers. So wine bottles, any sort of cup set you might get from a big box store, pickle jars, ragu containers, anything like that. All soda lime glass. So it's also mass produced. It's a very easy glass to use and work with. Okay, there's the neckline. Or this is actually literally a neckline, but this is a line which we're going to be able to break that extra bit of glass off with. It just so happens to be on the neck of our unicorn. You can see so well this heat that we're working with. Powder on glass, the powder color on the glass sometimes makes the glass look and work really gooey. It's fun to work with. So this is what's so great about Shelley, is as she's closing off this hole, a lot of glass makers sometimes will just close it off, right? But she's using some of that glass, the extra bit on the neck, to shape this as she pulls this out. So she's pulling the top half to get that kind of horse neck and arch that it traditionally has there. Really smart. We had our head out for a moment, I think just to give it a little extra heat. What we have, so the piece of equipment that we have a lot of our extra pieces in, so our arms and our legs for our unicorn, are right now inside of our garage. And our garage is a piece of equipment that allows for us to put things away in and take them back out, which is not very normal for glass. Usually you have to start something and finish it right away. But with this, you can put a piece of glass away and it will let it sit in that garage, kind of park it in the garage, and then we can move it over to the hotter side and take it out. So in that garage, we have one side that has our burner in it. And that burner is right around a little bit, maybe 1,000 or 1,050 degrees, so 1050. And then the farther side, the right side of the garage, is colder, right around maybe 950 or a little less than that. So you can even put things in there and then turn the garage off and it will slowly cool. So here we go. We're going to kind of clip off that section there. So that glass itself had closed off. So we have a closed off bubble. And then to get that off, watch this. Just hit it right off. Very nice. All right. So our bubble, inside sculpting the bubble is finished. Now we'll work on adding our appendages. Our arms and our legs. What Shelley is using now is a pair of cork paddles. Cork is great because it's soft physically to the glass. It's also soft heat-wise to the glass. So we use a lot of different materials as tools here in the hot shop. And I can name them all. We use metal, we use graphite, we use wood, we use wet wood, we use cork, we use lots of things. So the coldest thing, we use water. The coldest thing you can do to glass mostly is water. If you add water to the glass, it'll break it. If you add water to the glass when it's really hot, like when you use a block or a wet newspaper, the glass will turn the water into steam, so it's good to use it for that. But later on, the water will crack the glass. Graphite's very cold for the glass. Metal is very cold for it. Metal heats up though. And then wood and cork are very soft heats. Very soft materials to add to it because it doesn't shock the glass as much as metal would. So that's easy to use. Shelley uses the tweezers to pull the top of that to a very fine point. Depending on how we add the head on, that could be something we want to kind of camouflage into the shape of the unicorn. The fuel we're using down here is natural gas. That's what is heating up our ovens and our furnaces. Our pipe warmer that heats our pipes up so that the glass will stick to the pipes is run with electricity. Whoa, that was cool. We use air compression to puff up the top of our unicorn. So still being able to use that small opening there to blow into the unicorn. So natural gas is another one of those industry standards these days. Before natural gas, it was coal, and before coal, it was wood fire. And you can absolutely get a wood fire kiln up to 2100 degrees. Lots of fuel and a kind of convection airflow will get that going to a hot, hot heat. getting that head back into the oven. So we're about to put that on. I heard Shelley say 2 flashes to Tony. And so Tony has heated this up because we're going to add it on. So it's got to get to a temperature that's ready to be worked on. Once again, getting out of that 1,000-degree temperature range and getting it up to a little bit higher than that. We'll also be attaching it onto glass that's a little hotter too. So we want that. We want some heat worked back into it. There are a lot of subtle signals in a team like this. Shelley sometimes will say in the very beginning, okay, turn, and when she does that, she'll use a signal maybe with her hand, and then eventually, right now working on the pipe is Jeremiah. He'll read those signals without her having to say something. Same with the rest of the team. They'll kind of understand, okay, it's time to heat this part of the punty. Since we're keeping that hot throughout the entire time, we're gonna kind of settle into a rhythm. So we're out of our garage into our oven. I saw a head nod. That's another signal for Tony to heat and bring it over. And what Shelley has in her hand are a pair of tongs that are grabbers. They're grabbers. So it's 2 kind of forks and then another one on the other side. Those are really handy. So that'll allow her to grab around that head. She's using that torch to heat the side. That looks so cool. Pretty excited about that. More of the same color pattern on this, so I'm excited for you all to see it. So that was just adding a little extra heat. Shelley's getting ready. And here we go. So the orientation of this head is important. She wants to be able to grab it and orient it to where it will sit on accurately. So the connection point right now needs to be a particular temperature. We want that to be nice and hot so that will fuse and won't break off later too. Very nicely done. And we have a head. Beautiful. She squared that up nicely with the tip of that neck that she pulled out, and there's still a little bit of smoothing out she might do. It looks great. So there's our head. So you can see that in our oven. You can see that awesome color patterning on the surface of that. So you can even add on that kind of pattern powder on smaller bits to match the rest of it. I mean, isn't this inspiring you? So nice. So we'll really heat that in and get it to blend a little bit more. She's using a tiny cork paddle. You can use big ones for big pieces. You can use tiny ones for little tiny pieces. She heats and pulls that neck out of it. So cool. Okay, next up we have legs. So the orientation of this trying to load the website here. Shelley's website. She does a lot of stands, I believe. Metal stands, but let me look. Yeah, it's a pretty cool website. You all should check it out. No. Mm-mm. Yeah, so she'll use metal stands and also organic material. Wood, really reflecting, oh, I love it. Reflecting a lot of the natural creatures and the area that she lives and all over the world as well. Yeah, beautiful. Right. So, team still working away here. There is no small job on a team in glassmaking, or really anywhere. Everything is necessary. Awesome. So Shelley just informed me that this unicorn is more representative of the goat unicorn from the Lady in the Unicorn tapestry. And so we're looking at this now, and yeah, she said so it's a little bit goat-ish. So it's kind of a mesh together of those two. So I wonder if, yeah, if she'll add a little goat beard onto the bottom. That's going to be really fun. So yeah, and this, I don't know where that tapestry is. Did we find that out? It's in a museum in Paris. Are you going to... Oh, Museum of the Middle Ages. So she said the 15th century is when that was created. Awesome. Great reference. Lady and the Unicorn. There's another, there's a arm. I'm sorry, there's a leg. Lots of coordination. Here we go. Heating it up once again. Hot connection is always good. Get that really smushed on there. Well, not super smushed, but. And we have a leg. Oh, that's so cool. Those hooves look amazing. What an artist. If you want to make something lifelike, just slow down. Look at the details. That's great. So I do believe the unicorn is prancing in the tapestry. And Shelley does often have some of her animals prancing. Yeah. Yep, I agree. I think we will do. I don't know how long the horn is, but the one on the tapestry is quite long. We'll see. Yeah, it's good. Almost half. All right, leg 2 is out. All right, leg 2 on. And then, so Catherine and Tony over here, Team Garage, are moving all those pieces into the heat. So you can load a garage full, right, if you really wanted a whole lot of pieces. But if you're taking things from the right side out of the oven, you're going to break something. So you got to move it over to the hot side and then take it out. So not only are we working to get that stuff heated to get it onto the unicorn, but we're also, Catherine's kind of working to get those pieces moved over. So sometimes even that's a two-person job. You gotta hold it over there, get it heated up, and bring it out. So look, she's really taking a lot of care looking into the joints of that horse, getting that into great shape. Nice heat. Lots of heating. So this is also getting a bit long, lengthways, for our reheating chamber. I don't think it'll get too much, well, we'll think about that. But we're opening all of our doors to reheat that oven, or reheat our piece. So we shut the doors down to keep the heat in there. All right, arm number 1. So this should be a dancing or rearing unicorn there. Yeah, so it's a nice, really beautiful bent arm. Once again, heating it up, smooshing it on. So even though each of those arms and legs were done individually, they matched so well. Another great eye of detail from Shelley. Yes, very fun. Yes, it is. Shelley's having fun, everybody. That's always great. So what we have left is an arm and a horn. I haven't seen the horn yet. The horn is in one of our ovens, our pickup ovens. So that's different from the garage. The garage is something that you can kind of put things away at a colder temperature. And our pickup oven opens from the top instead. The garage is open from the side. So the pickup kiln, you can you have a different angle getting into it if you want it. Sometimes they're bigger ovens too. And usually you can also put bigger, thicker pieces in there. You can also send that oven up to a higher temperature to take those things out. So pickup kilns are also extremely handy. Here at the Corning Museum of Glass, we have 2 of them to use at one time, if you'd like. And that's what we've done. Right now, Shelley is using a butter knife to sculpt glass. You can use anything, even your butter knife. She also is using some dentist tools, some pick tools for any of the finer detail that she would like to add. The finest detail, I believe, is probably in the hooves and the face and in some of those kind of finer areas of our creature. And so that has been finished, but she might go back and kind of tweak some areas if she wanted to. She's got all of her tools laid out, ready to go. So we have glass makers that make glass tools for glass makers. You can also just pick some up at the hardware store. Not glass tools, but tools you can use in glass that aren't made by glass makers. Here comes our last arm. Yeah, I don't think tail either. Shelley likes to add the tails on later on. Just because you're a glass maker doesn't mean you have to stop at glass. So you can add other materials. And here comes arm number 2, appendage 5. Good connection point. now she has the freedom to really put that wherever she wants it to go. You can see it moving as they turn, as gravity influences it. But she's in charge. She gets to put that wherever she wants it to go. Oh, we have ears. We'll add some ears. Can't forget the ears. So if any of we get a lot of questions about recycling glass. Glass itself is infinitely recyclable as a material. Our soda lime glass is designed to have a longer working time. It's designed to be easy to work with the soda ash, the 20% of soda ash in it. If you recycle that over and over and over again, some of that soda ash does burn away, and you are left with lesser, easier to work with glass. Sometimes it doesn't look as nice either. But you can infinitely recycle our mass-produced glass. So here in our studio, we are able to recycle clear glass. If it's clear, we can put it right back into our oven. If it has color in it, we usually don't. We don't at all, because it will contaminate that color furnace. So we're waiting for ears to be made. Awesome. So Tony's rolling through some color powder. So we're just gonna add some white. So Tony has gathered some glass out of our oven, our clear glass, and has rolled it on some powder that's been set out in our powder booth. And then that powder sticks to the outside of that glass and it's being melted in. So then Tony puts that bit of glass back into our oven, and then we heat that in, and we're able to use that for the ears. So Jeremiah has the horse going on to what we call a yoke, and that yoke is what's helping us push this into our oven. The yoke is on rollers, and those rollers can come way out so that if we're working on something really heavy, this one is, I wouldn't say, I mean, maybe it's about 10 pounds. It's not the heaviest. That rolling yoke really helps us get closer to the workbench so we do less lifting. So that's a good tool. All right, so Tony has the ears. Shelley says when he comes out, which means whenever Jeremiah comes back to the workbench, they'll be ready. So that means that Tony should be ready then. She's already ready. Awesome. So I should let our audience know here that we close in about 5 minutes. You don't have to leave. But at the end, if you're here with us, we will escort you out together. So we can all leave through the same door. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, we've got summer hours now, so we close later at 7, which is great. When demos go a little long, which is totally fine, we're able to escort everyone out. Look at that ear. Beautiful. So she added it on with her tweezers, shaped that up, pulled the tip of that to a point, so we have that perfect horse or unicorn ear point. And she says, "Are you ready?" When we're ready. And Tony said, yep. Glassmaking is also like dancing. There's coordination involved. There's muscle memory involved. Timing. This one has a little bit of temperature in it. Look at this coordination. Awesome. 2 people working together to add this one ear on. Very nice. We're nearing the section of the demonstration where we put the horn on to make this into a unicorn. I'm very excited. I haven't even seen the horn, but I can't imagine how beautiful it is. All right, so horns in the oven. Turn it up a little bit more too. So it's at 1,000 degrees. That's a great temperature to take things out of the oven at. 900 is a little low. It's too low. So 1,000 is good. We're bumping it up, I believe, to 1050. And then Shelley's gonna grab the horn. Obviously not with her hands, but we'll see what she does. I'm watching to see. She grabs a pair of I think she's got her tongs. She's just in there organizing it. I'm going to help open that door up. So we're heating an area with the horn. So look at that. She heats the glass up, the head there, and she bores out an area with the horn. She's just using a copper pipe. All right, so she's got 2 horns. I got a sneak peek. They look pretty cool. They're very similar and reminiscent of the lady and the unicorn tapestry. And she's smart. She has 2 to choose from. Okay, we open up. She grabs one with the handy dandy tongs and places it onto the paddle. Okay. The horn is out. It's being heated. And we will add it on soon enough. 3 torches going on this so we can keep everything nice and warm. And when the timing's right, we'll add it on. So we also have to get that horn up to temperature. Gonna make sure the horse has that area heated nicely. All right. Here we go. There's our horn. We'll heat just that area and attach it right on to the head. Look at that. That's pretty cool. Oh, beautiful. Very nice. So to make a horn like that, you can wrap a small bit of glass around another bit so we get that spiral. You can add a color to it, wipe some of that color off. Ooh, beautiful. And into our oven it goes. Yeah. You guys want to clap for Shelley? Let's do it. Wonderful. All right. Now, everything we want to be added onto this unicorn is added on. So, our next step is to get this cooled in an oven, and that takes the longest time. before we are ready to put it away, we're going to make sure everything looks perfect. Shelley will have a bit of cold working to do because she will have those cookies remaining on the piece. But the less cold working, the better. Cold working is grinding any of the glass off that we might need to take off. Right now she's pointing up the horn of our unicorn. Like that. When everything is perfect, we'll put it away into the annealing oven. The oven is at 900 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a really great temperature for our glass to sit at. We would usually load that oven full of all the work that we make, but this is the only piece that's going into this. This is a very special oven, so we're not going to. Okay, so special annealer. Yes.
Is there another one of these?
Where?
Is there, I don't know. Is there, look on that part out back.
Okay. 1 minute. All right, so we'll put it away into the oven. The oven will slowly cool down over time. That's that slow cooling process. For a piece like this, it's a bit thicker. It's important. It has lots of detail. It took a lot of time. We'll go for a longer cycle. So that could be 48 hours, we'll see. So we'll put that safe and sound into our oven and then turn it on to a slow cooling cycle with a computerized process. So now we're working to get this piece off of the pipe and off of that punty. And so to get this three-pronged punty off, they're going to heat the punty. Well, I'm actually not too sure. Let's see what she does. See how she wants to take this off. It's important that the piece itself matches in temperature throughout. If you have an area of that unicorn that is hotter than the rest, it could cause imperfections in the cooling process.
What are we looking at, 20 pounds? Okay.
We want everything to be the same temperature so that none of that hotter temperature shocks the colder glass. It all goes away at the same temperature in a 900-degree kiln. right, so starting to move on that connection. So that's where we're going to get that glass to be removed. It's where it's moving. So we will cut the punty. And so the little buttons there will still remain on top of the cookies, and then those will be cold, worked off, and ground and polished. So back into the oven. This is a process. And it has to happen at the right time. So if the glass isn't ready to move yet, it's not going to happen. If the glass is moving too much, it might be in the reheating chamber when it's moving too much. So again, very important we get this to happen at the right time. Don't worry, Shelley's a pro. She's got a great team with her. Back into that oven we go. It's already moving pretty good. So this is one of those punties that is not designed to come off cleanly. It's designed to be strong. And here we go. Straight up and down so we can get those prongs to heat and break free. All right, one more flash, but you can see what we're gonna do. It's nice and warm. We're gonna let the unicorn fall off of that punty. We're gonna cut it free when it's ready to go. One more heat, Jeremiah said. Look at it go. Love it. Okay, try that again. Now, something heavy like this is going to move faster. Be very wary of that. So, lots of heat. Here we go. We're going to cut that hot glass. Cut, cut, cut. And away it goes. Up into our oven. Beautifully done. Shelley Muzylowski, everybody, and our team, wonderfully done. Beautiful demonstration. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us here in-house and everyone online. This will be up on the internet a bit more. You can come back and watch it again. But thank you once again for joining us. Thank you, Shelley, for being with us here today. What a great demonstration. Let's get another big round of applause. Anytime. All right. Good night, everyone.